Good afternoon, everyone. We've hit 2 o'clock, so we're going to start the webinar today. Welcome to our budgeting simulation session hosted by Dr. David Jong, who's on the screen right now. Before we get started, I'd just like to introduce our CEO, Ken Spiro, and I'll just get things kicked off, and then we'll dive in.
Thank you, Brian, and I wanted to echo your welcome message to everybody. Welcome, and we appreciate you taking your time to join with us today in this simulation experience. So, some of you know our work, some of you know me, but just for those, just to kind of frame the exercise, I really want to address the idea that our goal with simulations, is to really enable the adage that experience is the best teacher, right? We all know that. However, our best learning opportunities with experience actually come when we make mistakes. And as we all know, sadly, that the school of hard knocks can be rather unpleasant at best, and maybe quite painful otherwise. And so the opportunity to have in a simulation is really to allow us to fail safely. It's an opportunity to make mistakes and actually learn from them. And that's really what we're looking for an opportunity to do here. Now, the other thing about experience is that when the learning takes place, it often takes place when we have the opportunity to reflect, right? And when we reflect on our past experiences, we reflect on what we know, and that's where the learning comes from, when we relate an experience to that framework. The opportunity this way, in doing a sim with a group, is that you can also benefit from the experiences of others. We have people here from other schools, colleagues, peers from other districts, from universities. The opportunity to not only benefit from your own experience, but from their experience, and in an organic, conversational, collaborative way.
What is happening?
To us, there is no better way to learn safely. And so we chose for the session today to focus on what I think is on most people's minds. Wherever you're coming from, I'm guessing that your budgets have been cut. Or you maybe not know they've been cut, but you know it's coming. So we're dealing with a challenged environment in which how we continue to work with our students is going to be hampered by that. But if we're going to have to cut, how do we go about cutting? How do we prioritize? How do we look at that process, and who do we do it with? These are all the things that the budget challenge is a challenge enough on its own, but if we do it badly, it can get a lot worse. And so here's an opportunity for us to do that. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to introduce Dr. David DeYoung, who is a professor at the University of South Dakota. And he will introduce himself a little bit further, but he's also been a superintendent, a principal, a teacher over the years, and brings a unique perspective, not just on simulation, but also the challenges that we're experiencing both in our schools as well as our universities. So with that, I will turn it over to you, David.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Brian. I'm excited to be here today. And I'm excited to share what I know about these simulations, lead us through it, and help equip you to be able to use these in your context, whether you're a K-12 school leader or in higher education. I want to show you the power of these on this webinar today. And hopefully we get some two-way interactions going on, and I'll show you how Zoom is a tremendous platform for these simulations. So a little bit about myself. I was a teacher and a principal, and then I was a superintendent for 8 years in Iowa. And now I just finished my 5th year at the University of South Dakota, and I love it. So I'm the division chair for Ed Leadership, so I get to influence a lot of school leaders in the Midwest. Now, 4.5 years ago, I was at a UCEA conference in San Diego, and I stumbled upon these simulations and just at a conference. And it just took me 10 minutes to realize that this is the best tool out there for school leaders, like current school leaders and aspiring school leaders. And since then, I started using them, and I love them. In fact, the more I use them, the more I like them, and the more I learn about them. So I have been able to facilitate hundreds of simulations to thousands of school leaders, and today I'm going to share a little bit about what I have learned through that process. So one thing that I want to share is the multiple ways that you can facilitate these simulations. Now, if I'm ever in a large group of participants, so if you're like an assistant superintendent and you have a bunch of principals in the room, or if you are a university professor and you have 40 principals, you're meeting at their monthly meeting and you're leading the meeting. What I do then is I bring one projector, one sound system, one computer, and I lead the simulation from the front. And it works really well because at each decision point, I'm able to have people talk about what they chose and why they chose it. And it maximizes that opportunity that you have, that when people are all in one room with you, you want them to have those organic conversations between each other. All right, next, small groups of participants. So if you're a K-12 school leader and you have a bunch of principals coming in, or you have like an aspiring leadership group in your district, you are able to send them into small groups, whether it's a physical room and they can self-lead through a simulation, or if you bring everybody to a Zoom room and then you can send them all into breakout sessions and have them self-lead through a simulation. It works really, really well. So if you have a small group of participants, that's what I've learned is the big advantage there. Now, synchronously, like we are today. So when we're all kind of live, the depth of the conversations is just a huge advantage to these simulations. And asynchronously, what I learned is I've taught an asynchronous class 4 springs in a row now. And I have my aspiring school leaders, they experience a simulation on their own, and then they come to my online discussion boards, and they'll say things like, I went through the simulation 3 or 4 or 5 times, and because I wanted to learn from the different paths of the simulation. So these simulations, at each decision point, it might lead you down a different video. So you experience the results, the consequences of your decision without any real world ramifications, which is great. So asynchronously, people are willing to take more risks. Synchronously, I have found that they just don't want to look like a fool in front of their peer. So they're like, oh, what answer do I need here when we come to the decision points? And then finally, what is so good in the last 3 months is that you can use Zoom or GoToMeeting or any other Collaborate, any platform that you're using. And I'm going to teach you today how to use it via Zoom, where we have polls at each decision point, and we're going to utilize the use of breakout rooms. Just a nuts and bolts issue, I know that you're all familiar with Zoom, but if you're leading one of these on your Zoom, you have to set up your Zoom room so that way polls can be utilized and breakout rooms can be utilized. Just do a Google search for how do I set up a poll in Zoom, and they have great tutorials. So without further ado, let's experience the simulation right now. So the one that we chose is the middle school budget challenge. And the reason that we chose this is right now we're all going through budget cuts, K-12 and higher ed. In fact, I just had to cut a line from my team in the last week. And anybody in higher ed that knows that if you have to cut a recurring line, that is painful. So we are going to go through the middle school budget challenge now. 2 things I want you to know about these simulations. One is we're going to start off, all simulations start with about 5 minutes of context. So I'm going to lead you through that right now, just because you kind of have to know who are the characters, who are you, and it just kind of sets the stage for us. So that's a great thing about the simulations. The second thing I want to tell you about is we're going to hear some disruptions. So we've built disruptions into this simulation and our other simulations. Like you might hear a noise that says we have an email that just showed up. You might hear a knock on the door based on our path, and then somebody comes in and we see a video of them. So just like normal disruptions for any school leader, we might experience some of those. Without further ado, we're going to begin the middle school budget challenge. Now, the reason we have this opening page up here is to show you that when we write these simulations, we write them with practitioners in the field. So like current people in the trenches. So if you have a simulation that you would like to write up and work with us on creating videos, we would love to partner with you on that. So you would get your name up and you'd get recognition just like this. And hopefully you start using the phrase that I hear all the time when people talk to me like, ooh, I could write a simulation about that. Ooh, I could write a simulation about that. I hear that all the time. All right, here we go. Let's experience it.
This computer-based exercise is designed to be a catalyst for dialogue among principals, administrators, school staff, and other key stakeholders. While the primary focus of this program is determining an optimal budget for the coming year, please note that there are not necessarily correct choices in the simulation. You face scenarios, then make decisions, and see the consequences of your choices. There are trade-offs involved in most decisions.
All right.
Welcome to Thornbush Middle School. You are playing the role of principal and will interact with other characters as the story unfolds. You have been in this role for the last 2 years, during which time you have focused attention on reading and math scores, strengthened each department, refurbished the tech lab, and initiated a rigorous anti-bullying initiative. Current priorities include launching a team-based approach for 7th grade, continuing to develop the math literacy intervention programs, completing rollout of laptops to classroom teachers, and installing interactive whiteboards on all classrooms. Also heightening safety awareness and parent involvement to improve school culture, climate, and safety. A new parent liaison position was created for this purpose.
All right, this simulation is unique in that we now have 4 different PDFs that give us more context about Thornbush Middle School. So all you do is click on those and they go to your download folder. So I have downloaded them already for you. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview over what the 4 links go to. So in this first one, remember, Thornbush Middle School, we are a principal, and our enrollment is about 1,152. Next year, we're expected to get a few more students, so enrollment is gradually increasing. Accreditation is important to our school. Scrolling to see our proficiency scores for reading at 70%, science not good, 30%, writing 40%, and math 70%. So you have perceptual survey data. You've sent out 2 surveys, and basically the teachers are saying, yeah, I'm generally okay with things are going. I wish class sizes weren't as big. And then you get the parent questionnaires. They generally feel good, but there's a high number of respondents that report concern for child safety at school and going to and from the school. Let's remember that. Also, there's a high number of respondents that report inadequate supervision or activities after school. Good to know. So we have a school improvement plan that I'll show you in a little bit. There are 3 big goals: academic performance, technology implementation, and safety. And also budget. We have a specific budget that we'll create later. And this is a lot of normal stuff. But if you have aspiring school leaders and you're leading this simulation, you'll want to spend a lot of time on these opening forms And if you have current school leaders, you can breeze through them kind of like I am right now. So the middle school notes, a little bit more of the same. Here's like the more specifics about your technology plan in this document. This document's a little bit different. This has the first of 3 goals. This is our writing goal because our proficiency is not so good. Going to the next goal, which is mathematics. It's not so good with mathematics of a plan. And then the final of the 4 PDFs, these are our planning cycles. So this is our goal for technology integration and what that actually looks like. So again, I wanted to save some of your time, but I wanted to point these out, that these are resources that you as the facilitator of the simulation are able to dive as deep as you want or not as deep as you want. It's flexible. All right, this tells us that we can't go backward in the simulation. And we also have some characters. So we have Ken, he's a school counselor. We have John, who's an activist. Bill is in charge of finance. Everett is our tech director. Maria is a parent we'll hear from. Irina is a math department head. David's the language arts department head. Pam is the PTA chairperson. Kiko is the Teachers Association rep. Leslie is our assistant principal. And Carla is our superintendent. So now you can put some faces with the context that's about to come our way. All right, here's some more narrative for us. The winter holiday break is over, and while you have enjoyed the bit of time away from the school, you are energized to continue the momentum of progress. The 7th grade teaching team feels empowered by their successful collaboration. They report that having a full period devoted to planning is a key factor. At the same time, teachers who have recently been issued laptops have noted difficulties in getting timely responses to their tech support issues. They report that they have often needed to resubmit the same issue several times to get assistance. You recognize the importance of resolving this situation. This is not how you want your teachers spending their time. And a statewide coalition of concerned parents, Citizens for Progress, has issued a call for resistance to any cuts to the education budget made by the governor-elect Angela Anders. Our children are our future, and we stand united for continued excellence in education, says John Perez, local chairperson. We will vigorously fight any attacks on the state education budget made by the new governor or others. And we call on parents as well as other school administrators to join our cause. All right. So that pit that we're starting to feel in our stomach is starting to show up because we got some resistance to any cuts that we're going to have to make. That's an interruption. That's our first disruption. It's an email from the tech director. Our tech support provider has been charging this district overtime to deal with issues submitted by teachers on your staff with new computers. Let's determine if we need to do some additional training for them, as we will quickly exceed our support allocation for your school. Let me also take this opportunity to encourage you to find ways to increase your leverage of the computer lab facilities. Some schools have found ways to extend the curriculum without incurring the cost of additional teachers. In addition, some schools are utilizing learning software that has been certified in labs that have paraprofessionals as monitors, thereby saving the cost of a certified teacher. I'm glad to discuss these and other ideas with you. Feel free to schedule some time with me. Oh, here's another email that came our way. This is from the parent liaison. I was glad to see the increased attendance at last year's Parents' Night. Several parents indicated on the survey form that my phone conversation with them about the event was influential in their decision to attend. I wanted to bring mention that several parents also indicated school safety is a huge concern. I welcome any suggestions you have on how we can address this, and I'm very glad to work with the school security officer as needed. I look forward to working with you on this issue. Okay, January 10th in our budgeting cycle, we have our preliminary budget with a superintendent who believes in empowering each principal. You have responsibility for allocating the budget for your school. This includes staff, equipment, and supplies, and the third year of the technology plan. All staff compensation is based on district averages for use in budgeting and includes benefits. Transportation, food service, utilities, central office services, and general capital expenditures are not included in the school budget. You have drawn up your preliminary budget for the next year and submitted it to the business office. You can view the budget document here. After you finish reviewing the budget document, select the Confirm Next button to advance. All right, so let's take a peek at the budget that we created. It's an Excel spreadsheet that downloads automatically to your downloads folder. Okay, here we go. A quick, the summary here. Our budget in our middle school is a little over $6 million. All right, and we can see that a huge majority of that is certified and non-certified staff. In fact, here's the breakdown. It's $5.53 million. And I did the math. That's 91% of our total budget expenditure for our middle school. So that's what you really need to know as we go into the next stage here. All right, I'm switching back to the simulation and we will push next. You are on lunch duty and you hear your administrative assistant over the school intercom requesting that you return to the office. What will you do? All right, now we're thinking budget, and what we're doing is we are responsible for lunch duty. So you are on charge right now. Here's what I want each one of you to do, no matter where you are at in the world, because I know that we have people all over right now. Take out a pen or a pencil, or take out your phone. So if you have your phone with you, you can write down your response, or you can remember it in your brain. But I want you to choose the first option, the second option, or the third option. So here's the first option. Complete your lunch duty, then return to the office. Second option, call her on your cell phone while you're on lunch duty, remember. Third option, return to the office. Now this might be a meaningless decision point, but it's such a great way for us to get warmed up on this. So get your choice, the first option, second option, or third option. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll. So I set up this same poll that we're going to use, and I'd like you to respond. First option, second, or third. Now you see that I have set, oh, I see people already turning in their options. Great job. I have 7 options because sometimes we have 7 options, but what I realized is I can reset this poll every single time. Oh, nice. We already have option 1, option 2, and option 3 in our group of leaders. How good is that? All right, I'll wait a little bit longer. See a couple more. Oh, perfect. Okay, we have all 3 options right now. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to have you look at your option just to make sure you know which one it is. And I'm going to show you how to use breakout rooms when you're using Zoom. So you're going to see a little screen come up. If you've never used the breakout room in Zoom before, it says you are assigned to this room. Do you want to go? Just click yes and play with me here, and you'll meet some new people. And when you meet them, I want you to introduce yourself. I want you to say which letter you chose and explain why you chose that. So the breakout rooms are coming out right now. Oh yeah, I see people joining the rooms. Thank you. Great job. Great job. And move one person there. All right. Looks like everybody that wanted to join is joined. And it looks like everybody has somebody to talk to. Hi, Brian and Mary Pat. Can you hear me yet?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Oh, I love breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Hey, Amber.
Hey. They make me nervous. I'm always afraid you're going to stick me in one, even though you've promised never to again.
I didn't. No, I look. See, so what I see on my end with the breakout rooms is everybody who wants to join joins.
Yeah.
And then I always make sure that there's one other person. So right now it's either 2 or 3 in every room.
Got it.
And I can monitor that just to make sure that it's all good.
That's cool, actually.
Yeah, so right now we have people from all over the United States and possibly the world meeting each other and talking about their response to what they'd choose.
Very cool.
Hi, Thomas. How are you?
Hi. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, you're totally well. It works well. So let me catch you up a little bit. So we started a simulation, and I just sent people to breakout rooms to talk about their choice.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only thing that you missed is the context of the simulation. And the context is basically you're a middle school principal, budget cuts are coming, overall things are going pretty well in your school, but you're starting to feel pressure from various stakeholders about not touching their programs or their people.
Of course.
Yeah, so we're getting emails flooding in as we make our decision.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I was just saying I was actually online with Zoom. I understand the university is going to purchase it, so I want to get with you soon and walk through some things.
Great. I think you're going to love this. You'll be able to jump in. I'm going to bring everybody back to the rooms here in a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I use polls and breakout rooms, which I think adds tremendous power to the simulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I just closed all the rooms, and I'll be bringing them back here shortly, within the next minute.
Okay.
Oh, welcome back, people, as you start joining us back. Yes, I hear people in the chat saying that was cool. Thank you very much. I think so too. These sims have the power to bring so many people from so many different perspectives, so many different experiences together. So I'm glad you're seeing that. All right, now let me share the results of the poll. As the facilitator, there are some times that I share the results of the poll right away. And there's sometimes that I kind of hold that information back. So right now I'll share the results. So you should be able to see on your screen now that 21% of our participants chose the first option, 75% chose the second option, and 4% chose the third option. And now as the facilitator, I have the choice. I'm like, all right, is this a decision point that I want to dig deep in and talk about in a large group? Or is this a decision point that I want to just make the choice based on the results of the poll and move forward? So this is what the group said. So we are going to call her on her cell phone. Go. You call your administrative assistant, who seems very anxious. She tells you that word has gotten out that budget cuts are required and to check your email for the details. All right, there we go. Our email popped up. Now, this is from our superintendent. As you know by now, we are again faced with the need to bring our spending in line with the cuts to our state funding expected to be passed by the state legislature, proposed by our new governor, Harold Tomley. This means you will need to reduce your school's budget by 15%. Please submit your revised numbers to Bill Yee, Finance Director at the district office, 2 weeks from today. Thanks for thinking creatively about how we can maintain the highest level of academic excellence during these difficult fiscal times. Now remember, our superintendent told us that she believes in empowering us as the principal to handle this budget. So this is our problem now. You consider how you will respond to the request to cut your school's budget for the coming year. An appealing option is to heed the call from Citizens for Progress and resist the cuts. Just say no. Daring perhaps, but with the groundswell of support from parents, it may represent the wishes of your school community. Another option is to cut the budget by 15% in each primary category. Seems like it might be the fairest way to distribute the pain. On the other hand, perhaps you should focus on preserving key elements of the school improvement plan, such as safety or curriculum. Finally, you wonder if you should handle the budget on your own, or if the best approach may be to form a committee made up of key stakeholders to work through the process. This may help gain buy-in from those involved, although it does run the risk of becoming a lengthy exercise in frustration. Decisions. All right, here we go. In the box below, draft a memo to your staff outlining how you will respond to a request for a 15% budget reduction at your school. Include a justification for your approach. Now, as the facilitator of a simulation, I'm trying to equip you to be a facilitator of these sims. There's a couple ways that you can handle these type boxes. Just remember that whatever we type in here, right here, whatever we type here will go on our final feedback form, okay? So we need to be very careful on how we handle this. So I could ask you to write in your chat box. But what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna send you back to your breakout rooms. So this is what we're gonna talk about. You need to write something to your staff outlining how we will respond to a request for a 15% budget reduction. So this is your time to share about what you would do.
All right. Got it.
Breakout rooms, go. Nice. All right. I'm going to move this person to 6. All right. Assign you to 3. Thomas, I'm going to assign you to 4. Mary Sue, I'm going to assign you to 4 as well.
Hey, David, can you make sure Erica Leal gets assigned to a group as well? She didn't get to vote last time.
Yep, I'm looking for that right now. Okay, I didn't get to vote. How were we grouped? Erica said that. So she didn't get a vote. So like 90% of the people voted, but I'm not sure why she didn't. So I'm not sure if the screen didn't show up for her or not.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like she's in a group right now. If I'm looking at it correctly, I don't know if you have a way to assign her to a group.
I'm looking. Can you try to do that as well since you're a co-host?
I can try.
Because it.
I don't see an option for that.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I sent her to 5 because she wasn't. She chose not to go to join. So what's happening on her screen is that the pop-ups are not showing up. So the issue is on her end, and I've never had that before.
Okay, we'll have to research that for next time.
Yep.
Maybe after this decision, we can ask some people to comment on their choices.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a better one to do that because they're talking like crazy right now. Even though it doesn't seem like it, they're meeting new people and they're talking, which is great. But yes, I agree. All right, Monica, I'm going to move. So, and it's okay if some people choose not to join. I mean, that's a total choice. Would you be willing, Brian, would you be willing to reply to Erica and just say that she needs to, that the pop-ups aren't working on her end?
Sure.
Because I'm 100% sure they are working for others. Excellent. I see Erica is still here.
Yeah, I can train her on that.
Erica, can you hear me right now? Ooh. Sonia asked a wonderful question. All right, I'm going to bring everybody back. All right. All right, now they all have 60 seconds to rejoin us.
This is cute.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. All right, I'm looking for someone to share. What did you talk about in your group? I would love to hear that. And you can just unmute yourself and go ahead. All right, I'm looking for somebody. Oh, Tanya.
Hey guys, this is Tania from Seminole County Public Schools. I'm an assistant principal at Sanford Middle School. I am fortunate to actually be in a group with one of my fellow APs that's at my middle school, and Robert from Dade County, who actually does training for first, second, third year principals in the counties, and he probably held every position you can. But we came to a consensus that the ultimate decision is the principals, and we would reassure them that we would look at the budget, and Robert stated not to make cuts where it would affect people's livelihoods, reassure them in the response going out to that there would probably be other areas that we could cut the budget from, whether it's supplies, materials, consumables, resources, and then looking for other areas where there's resources like PTSA, if they can contribute some of their funding, other outside sources. So just being very resourceful in that budget cut. We had a similar budget cut in Seminole County, but we were talking about how we had to make them out of personnel. And so we discussed how that looks and how that response would be too.
Oh, thank you so much. Is there anybody else that would like to share? All right, I'm moving on here. We have our next decision point. So choose the option below that best corresponds to how you would address the cuts. So we have 3 choices right now. So I'm going to have you vote again. So here's option number 1. Resist. Tell the administration you refuse to make cuts. Option number 2. Determine how you will make the cuts on your own. Option number 3. Form a committee to determine how the cuts will be made. All right, I'm going to launch your poll. Get your choice, the first choice, second, or third. Poll. So all I'm doing is relaunching the same poll that I've already sent to you. It's come up. Please vote. Oh, nice. The vote's flooding in. I love it that we have option 1, option 2, and option 3 already. That's so good. It's actually, as a facilitator, it's my favorite when there's a split vote. All right, I'm going to end the poll right now, and I'm going to share the results immediately. So right now, from our people in our group, we were able to see that 4% chose the first option, 7% chose the second option, and 86 did the third option. So I pushed stop sharing on my end. So 86% of us says that. So as the facilitator, when I facilitated, if it's like an overwhelming majority to one of the options and I want to keep things moving, I'll just make the choice and say, we're not going to go to breakout sessions in this time. We're just going to talk about this option. So let's see what that leads us. You now need to determine who will be on your budgeting committee. There are your assistant principals. They are your second in command and will need to stand by the budget with you. You may consider the director of finance and assistant superintendent of instruction, as these members of the administration can offer guidance. The school counselor may also be a valuable contributor, providing insights into student needs. Inviting key members of your teaching staff will inform the curriculum needs and may ensure the support of the teachers after the cuts. In addition, you may consider parents to be your primary constituency. You may want to involve the PTA chair, and you may consider parents to be your primary constituency. You may want to involve the PTA chair. All right, we have 4 of the following to participate in the budget committee. So as you can see, we have multiple, we have all 5 of them checked. We can choose up to 4 of them. So this one will be a little bit different when you vote, because I want you to vote which group would you not include as on your budget committee. So which one are we not choosing? Here's the first choice. Other building administrators, such as assistant principals. Option number 2, district central office administrators. Option 3, student services staff, such as school counselors. Option 4, teachers, such as the building union rep, department heads. And option 5, parent leaders, such as the PTA chairperson. So which one are we not going to choose in this option right there? I'm going to launch my poll. There we go. Relaunch the poll now. Oh, nice. Ooh, it's at 89% right now with one of them. Awesome. Ooh, and now it's splitting up a little bit. None of the options seem good to me. I'm glad somebody chose that option. That's under the 7th option. Because as leaders, we need to talk about the different groups. And sometimes on these simulations, I get people say, well, I don't like any of the answers. That's great, because what I do as a facilitator is I say to them, that's awesome. What do you think the options should be? So I'm going to end the poll. I'm not going to show you the results, but I am going to send you into breakout rooms. So I'm going to go back, give you be able to see the options again. So you can see the options, which one, who's going to be part of our committee. Let's chat about that and see where you go with it. All right, go into my breakout rooms. And I'm going to open them. Nice.
Oh.
See, people are leaving the rooms. Great job. Scanning the rooms. Everybody has somebody to talk to. Looks like all of our rooms are active at the moment. So Brian, just so you know, when I'm sending people to the rooms, they are sticking with the same people. I could possibly like totally blow it up and recreate different rooms. And that would take a little bit of extra time, but I'm sending them to the same room. Do you have any opinions on whether I should keep doing that?
I think that's fine.
Okay. So Brian, and you saw you're invited to room 8 and then you just didn't click to join it, correct?
Correct.
Yep. All right, I'm going to bring everybody back. Oh, I see people coming on back. Excellent. Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Wow.
I see some people are still utilizing all the time that they can to talk in their groups, which is totally great. So what I do as the presenter is I set it up so that way everybody has 60 seconds to wrap up their conversation. And now all the time when I'm facilitating these, people will ask me, well, how long do you let people chat? This is about how long I do it. And you have a better sense as the facilitator how the conversations are going in a face-to-face setting. But this is about enough time for people to kind of share and have some dialogue and also keep things moving. Sonia had a great question that I want to address before I move on. And she asked, how do I set up the groups in the breakup room? Is it based on what letter they chose? And it's not, because these polls are anonymous and I can't see what each of you chose. Totally randomized groups, so you're with people from all different parts. And then I also, each time if somebody's not joining a group, I'll flip them to another group. So you probably had people that have joined or left your group, which is totally normal within Zoom. Okay, next. So, oh, did somebody have a question?
I thought it was only 600.
Okay, moving on here. We have the most, I'll share the results. 50% of the people that voted said that the second option is the one that they don't want. So that's the one that we left out right now. And remember, all of our decisions have a trade-off, right? And we'll come back to that a little bit later. All right, in your own school, whom would you want to include in the discussion of budget priorities? We just talked about that. So as the facilitator, I'm going to skip this. We just got an email from our AP. You read an email from the assistant principal, then determine the course of action. All right, so let's go into our email. We have reference documents again. Here are our people. Let me get back to that. Oh. And back. There we go. I understand you have formed a committee to discuss budget considerations. I would really like to participate. Could I join the committee as well? How do we respond? Yes or no? I'll set up a quick poll. The AP wants to join the meeting. Are we going to let this person join? You may vote now. Oh, yeah. I like it. People are voting much faster, which tells me that you're getting used to the polls, which is great. 95% of our people say, yes, we will let them join. So let's go back and let's let the AP join. There we go. Ooh, next, we read an email from the district finance director. Then we determine a course of action. I understand you formed a committee to discuss budget considerations. I would really like to participate. Could I join the committee as well? I'll relaunch the poll. Do we let the district finance director join? Yes or no? Oh, none of these options seem good to me. I like it. Somebody chose that again. This is much closer than the other one. All right, remember all of our decisions have trade-offs. I'll end the poll and I'll share it with you. 65% said no, 30% said yes, and 5% said none of these options seem good to me, so neither yes nor no. Probably means they need to have a conversation with them. So we're gonna roll with no. That's the majority. Next. Oh, school counselor. I understand you formed a committee to discuss budget considerations. I would really like to participate. Could I join the committee as well? Yes or no? You may vote. Oh. Interesting. 75-25 right now. Great job on the quick voting. Ooh. Okay, I'll show you the vote. 62% said yes, 38% said no. So we are going to say yes, and we're going to move on. And one more. Read an email from the union rep and then determine the course of action. I understand you formed a committee to discuss budget considerations. I'm quite surprised that you have not included any teachers on this committee. I hope you will reconsider this choice. How do we respond? Invite at least one teacher or stick with no teachers? There we go. That's what I thought. We have one. None of the options seems good to us. And we have everybody else. 95% of our participants said yes, invited a teacher. Make sure that we are inviting the teacher. Okay, great. You reconsider your choice and invite key members of your teaching staff to join the budgeting committee. They gratefully accept. All right, you read an email from the PTA chair, then determine a course of action. I understand you have formed a committee to discuss this budget considerations. I'm quite surprised that you not included any parent representation on this committee. I hope you will reconsider this choice. Do we want to invite at least one parent or stick with no parents? I'm going to go to our poll. Relaunch it. Are we going to include, are we going to meet the PTA chair's demands? No, okay. Votes are rolling in. And you as the facilitator, you need to decide, do you want to have people talk about each one of these decision points or keep moving? It's totally your choice. All right, I'm going to end the poll, share the results. 75% said yes, we will meet their demand. We're going to invite that person.
Hey,
all right, here we go.
The mail is here.
The first committee.
I didn't go out though.
Our ballots are there.
It's outside.
I'm working right now.
Me too.
You have assembled your budgeting committee and have asked them for their recommendations. As you imagine, there is a broad spectrum of opinion, and the discussion is emotionally charged. There is a case made for spending more on after-school programs, expanding the parent liaison role, and hiring an additional security officer. The move to a team-based approach in 6th and 8th grades next year will require no cuts to the teaching staff in order to ensure there is adequate time for planning and collaboration. While cuts to the technology initiative are advocated by those who do not see the value of smart boards in the classrooms, others see them as key tools in revitalizing the curriculum. going hand in hand with the move to a team-based teaching. In the end, however, the committee decides that safety should be the primary priority and the budget determined accordingly. Congratulations, you have a recommendation. After getting the committee's recommendation, you are considering if you should go back to the idea of determining how to implement the cuts yourself. Maybe the committee approach is not the best course of action after all. On the other hand, you certainly have buy-in for safety as a priority. What will you do? We have two choices. First option or second option. And remember, none of the options of the above is also for you. Option 1, accept the committee's recommendation and work the budget accordingly. Option 2 is reconvene the team and take a more active role in establishing priorities. So I'm going to launch a poll. Right now, vote please. Ooh, 50-50 out of the gun. Oh yeah. This is a great discussion point.
Hey, David, while we're waiting for the results, I just wanted to point out that we have a question that would be great for an answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where in this process do you spend time helping participants reflect on the values, dispositions, and beliefs that undergird decision-making and have implications for equity?
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple ways you could do that. So if somebody brings that up in the large group, what I would do is during the next discussion point, I would pose that to the group. And I would talk about, hey, let's reflect on our decision-making process so far. And what also I know as the facilitator is coming up, we have some more nitty-gritties. As you can see, this is a funnel and it's narrowing all the way down. And the equity stuff will continue to come up as we go through this. So right now, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to show it to you right away. We have 40% on the first option, 47% on the second option, and 13% say none of these options seem good to me. So I'm going to have you talk about this right now in your groups, in your breakout groups. And also I'm going to have you talk about where does equity start to fit in with your decision-making process at the moment. All right, going to breakout right now. Awesome. I see people are joining their rooms.
David, can you add some folks to room 7?
Yes, I can. There you go.
David, how many rooms are there right now? Is it 10?
Well, we had 13.
Okay.
And there are about 9 active rooms right now.
Be great if we can get a couple of volunteers to, verbally talk about their discussion.
Yeah, we kind of had crickets when we asked them last time, right?
Yeah, maybe when they come back, we can say, at this point, we're going to, request that you assign someone from your group to just give us a little rundown as to what decision you chose and how you got there.
Okay. And what I found, Brian, is with Zoom breakout rooms, people feel so like there's so much collaboration happening right now with people. Like it's just amazing. And then they come back to the large group and they're like, ooh, this is a large group of people that I don't know who they are. And they don't. But if before I send them to the group, if I make sure that they know to assign somebody to speak, I think people will be more apt to share with the full group.
Okay, let's do that for the next decision point then. I agree with you. I think that's probably best.
Excellent.
So when my job was reduced in 2008.
And Brian, just to let you know, I had a few people that mentioned that they had to jump to another meeting at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock Central Time. That's what time it is where I'm at. All right, I think I'm going to bring people back. Welcome back. I see every second we gain a few more people. I'd love to hear what your groups are talking about right now. So I need some brave souls out there to share because this was almost a 50-50 split. We created a budget committee and we gave a recommendation. Do we accept it or do we reconvene the team and take a more active role? What did some of your groups talk about? I'd love to hear.
Well, we appreciated that the mistakes have already been made, and that is, as you said at the beginning, that's part of the point of the sim. So since the committee's decision-making seemed to be, not really guided by the same values that the school leader might have, gives the person in the role of the school leader here the chance to reconsider how they manage a process.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. Anybody else want to share what your group talked about? I'd love to hear it.
I agree with Brian because ultimately it's the leader's decision. Providing the people an opportunity to voice their opinions, to give their recommendations or their point of view is just taken as a reference or taken as just taken in order to think of other possibilities. But at the end of the day, the leader is the head of the school, the company, and it is their responsibility at the end of the day to select what's best. And that's why they're the leaders. We're just here to provide suggestions.
Yesenia, that is spot on. So what this would be a good time to talk with your aspiring or current leaders that are leading this simulation you could go back and say, where in this process should have the leader said, listen, at the end of the day, I'm going to be the one making the final decision, but I want to hear from your input because I have not made up my mind and I'm going to listen to everything, but I'm still the one that needs to make the decision.
That should be made up front.
Thank you, David. And think about a simulation, how good that is to teach our leaders to do this up front. Bingo.
Mhm.
That's an absolute jackpot of information right there. Does anybody else want to share anything? Kara?
Oh my gosh, my dog is barking and I didn't mute. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Oh, I love it. Okay, so let's go back to our poll here. And our poll was 47% say option number 2. So option number 2 is how we are going to roll. Now, a little caveat, I'm going to go down a rabbit trail here. When I facilitate this in person, I love to give people time and I'll say, hey, who listened to somebody in your group and you changed your mind? And somebody will inevitably raise their hand. And I'm like, yes, that's what we need to do as school leaders. We need, if we have time to talk to a mentor, talk to a peer, sometimes it changes our mind and that's a good thing. So we're going to go reconvene the team. We talked about why we're going to do that. A few of the participants in the budget meeting acknowledged to you privately that it was a somewhat frustrating experience, but they encourage you to continue the process. After those tempered pats on the back, you are glad you have reconvened the committee for another meeting. At the next meeting, budget committee, you try to guide the conversation away from the dollars involved and toward a sense of shared priorities. Unfortunately, things get bogged down when parents begin sniping at the teachers, asking them why they will not renegotiate their contract. In response, the teachers note that the union has already begun considering what can be done, but they remind the parents that the contract is not what this budget committee is supposed to be addressing. It feels like time is quickly running out and you need to do something before it does. Which of these options below seems like the best course of action? First option, thank the team for their input and make the budget decisions on your own, or present the budget priorities as you see them, leading the way with your own views. So what wording are we going to use right here? I'll relaunch the poll for you. Oh, another split vote right off the bat. Interesting. All right, great job. See a couple more votes that are sprinkled in. It's 53% to 41% to 6%. Okay, I'll show it to you. The first option got 41%, the second option 53%, and none of the options is the 6%. So I'll stop sharing that. So I believe present the budget priorities as you see them, leading the way with your own views. Let's move on. You have determined to share what you see as the school's priorities as the guide to allocating the budget. From the following options, pick what you would choose as your top priority. Select, confirm next when you're ready to move forward. So which one is our top priority? Option 1, community and safety. Option 2, instruction and curriculum. Option 3, technology initiative. I'll set the poll and go. Ooh, 0 for technology so far, folks. Community and safety or instruction and curriculum is what it seems to be. This is perfect. All right, I'm going to end. Oh, I was almost going to end it, and then somebody else voted. All right, I'm going to end it right now. Now, we are in an interesting predicament because we have a tie. So we have a tie right now. So one of the things that we've been talking about as a team, one of our clients actually shared this with us. If you have like aspiring leaders, sometimes you just might want to throw it on one person and say, hey, you are the principal in this situation. We are going to roll with what you said. So I'm going to go with Stephanie Strand. I'm going to pick Stephanie. So Stephanie, which one would you choose?
Oh, wow.
How awesome is that?
No pressure.
No pressure. Which one would you choose?
I think it's got to be community and safety. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and tell us why.
You know, I just think kids have to feel safe coming to school. I think they're better learners when they feel that teachers are invested in them and they're keeping an eye on a variety of issues from peer-to-peer relationships and teacher relationships. I think the school culture plays into that. I just think if you can start first and foremost there with positive relationships, I think kids will flourish in their learning.
Very good. So what? Thank you, Stephanie. I totally put you on the spot. I love that. And so what I wanted to do as the facilitator is I wanted to just kind of model that for you, because what happens in real life is when you're the leader and you have to make a decision and justify it in front of your peers, that is a lot of pressure. So thanks. I owe you a Hershey bar, Stephanie. So thank you.
Sorry, that probably wasn't as eloquent as I could have been, but you did put me on the spot.
I did. How awesome is that? Okay, community and safety, that's how we're rolling. Okay, we just shared that. Our second priority is clearly instruction and curriculum. We don't need to vote on that because we already did. I have the results and it was tied. Your clarification of priorities helps the team become aligned. Now you need to determine how to allocate the budget with those priorities as a guide. Which of the following options seems like the best choice? We're going to vote again. Option A, the first option, fully fund your top priority and distribute the remainder as best you can. Option number 2, determine a weighting to your top 2 priorities and allocate the budget accordingly. Or option 3, build the budget up 0. Determine what is required to be in compliance, then consider how to best achieve your priorities. So basically blow up your choice. Now, when you make your decision, when you talk this time, I'd like to assign somebody in your group to share what your group talked about. So when you get back to your breakout rooms, I want to hear report out, which is another strategy that we like to use when facilitating these simulations. All right, I'm going to send the poll right now. You may vote. Oh, great job. Here they come. I'll tell you what, it is exciting as a facilitator to see people, how quickly they vote. It's just great. We have option A, B, and C at the moment. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms. Ready and go. Remember to assign a person to share what you're saying, what your group talked about. All right. Just made a move. Excellent. Everybody has someone to talk to. All right, Brian, Mary, Pat, Ken, or Amber, I want to get your advice on timing.
Yeah, we're at 3:23-ish. I think when we come back, maybe before you ask for opinions, you can say that we're almost at 3:30. We're going to continue working through the sim. We understand if not everyone can stay on, but you're welcome to continue with us, and we'll post a recording when we're done.
And also mention that we'll send out the feedback report. David, do you want to offer to respond to questions before we continue? Just to do a quick, for those who might need to leave.
Sure.
And then we can continue.
Yeah, I don't see any more in the chats to me privately or to the group. But so
I wouldn't pause for questions, David. I would work through if people want to stay on, we could do Q&A at the end. We don't want to interrupt the flow.
What I love going on right now is I know how passionate people are getting about their conversations. It's exciting to me that people from all over the United States are talking about their choices on this. All right, I'm going to close the rooms and bring people back and ask if they're willing to share with their group said. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back to the friends here. If you were the person that was willing to talk about what your group was, or to share what your group was talking about, now is a great time. So I'd love to hear from you.
So this is John Summers. I'll start. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Krista and I talked about that we would like to go back to our data and our surveys and our school improvement plan and look at and see what the priorities were, and then start with those priorities and create the budget around
Nice.
them.
Thanks, John. Who else was assigned to share?
Our group didn't talk about that. Be happy to talk.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. This is Tom Evans. In our group, we had 2 out of 3 voting for option 2 and the third voting for option 3. And I think the discussion on option 3 was presented very clearly and with sound judgment. I shared with the group, I picked option 2 because I didn't like our top priority. That I do a lot of work with school safety and the work that I do. And my argument is always that safety actually begins in the classroom with the curriculum and the instruction.
Absolutely.
That's really how we make schools safe. It's not about spending money on buying gadgets, or more security. So I didn't like our choice for the top priority, and I figured going with the two top priorities that I could have some sort of my way, in getting my option funded. But a good argument was made for starting at ground zero and building it up.
That is awesome. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
We decided, Sandra and I, to go with option 2 because why reinvent the wheel and start from zero when you already have a ground? And we have to focus and maintain our 2 top priorities in place. Number 1 is safety, because it's so important that to provide that social emotional support to all stakeholders, the students, the teachers, the community. And if we don't have that, that's going to impede students learning and students being successful. That's why it's so important to start there. And then obviously our second, it will be curriculum and instruction, because that's the main goal in order to prepare everything for the students.
Awesome. What's great about that is Tom and Yasina said a lot of the same stuff, but 2 different ways, which is great.
And this is Marilyn, maybe to further elaborate on the third choice. In our group, we talked about the need to align budget decisions to a school and district improvement plan that has integrity. Okay, so if it's just a document that you dash out because you have to create one, don't bother.
Yep.
But if you really believe that you have a school improvement plan that really reflects the district's values, is written over like a 3 to 5 year period, that it may be easier to begin to assign budget dollars in an equitable manner to initiatives that need to be sustained. And also, there's options for engaging outside sources. So around safety, I would be partnering up the yin yang, okay? Our district attorney's offices, there are all kinds of ways we can look at funding to support safety in our communities. And that may be more of a partnership activity because we always say it takes a village to raise a child. So I'm there.
Thank you, Marilyn. And and you could stop right there as the facilitator, Marilyn, to talk about who are those partners that you would go with in your district, because see, the simulation is getting us to talk about, like, okay, if I say that I want to be a leader and with equity budgeting is my foundation, like, who do I talk to? Who do I partner with? And when they have those organic conversations, they're like, hey, my superintendent did this, or in my former district, we did this. And now you're making those connections for them, because with adult learners, when we know that when we help them make connections to their prior experiences, that's when their deep learning happens. So thank you for bringing that up.
And I think just to contextualize it, we have a conversation across this country about defunding police. I sit home at night going, whoa, that's a lot of money that can be turned over to schools or other community organizations. I know how to spend the money, that's all. Well,
Yeah.
we still have policing
Thank
in
you.
our country.
Good. Anybody else? Okay, very good. I've had a few people that have commented and said, hey, love the simulation. I have to jump onto another meeting. People had to jump off at 2. If you have to jump off at 2:30, like, I totally understand. You have an awesome, if you have to leave, you have an awesome understanding of what simulations are and the different ways to facilitate them, and especially using Zoom from people all over. So I'm going to keep going with the simulation for as long as people want to. So we are going to go, I'm going to share the results. So we have the second option would be 57%. That was the highest option out of these. So I'll stop sharing that. And now we will go with the second option. Returning to the numbers with your two top priorities in mind, you find yourself wondering what the perfect balance would be when it comes to weighting the two. There has to be a better way. Rebuilding the budget from ground up has some clear advantages. After determining the resources that need to be in place for compliance, you are in a position to be additive, which in turn results in further creative thinking about potential solutions. For example, could the community fully support the middle school sports programs? Are smart boards the best use of technology or of funding if greater community involvement is your primary goal? And getting the right mix. Now that you have clarified your priorities and seen the value of rebuilding the budget from a basic compliance level, consider what you would do differently and revisit the preliminary budget available on the desktop. So that's down here. Simulation summary. You will be able to review your performance metrics and feedback for your decisions on the following pages. Each decision references relevant PECL standards. Refer to the complete standards document here. This feedback is intended to stimulate thought and discussion, and it should not be regarded as an absolute indicator of right or wrong. Let me emphasize that. This feedback form should not be regarded as an absolute indicator of right or wrong. Remember that every leadership dilemma is shaped by context, and every choice entails trade-offs. Select Confirm Next to begin reviewing your report. So here we go. Professional ethics. We scored a flat-out 100. Great job. Equity and responsiveness. We scored a 90. And student community, we scored a 95. So now we have each one of our decision points that we can review. So this is what a feedback form looks like. So right now, I can print this off. I'm going to save it as a PDF to my desktop right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to send this all out to all of our participants after the session. You'll get a recording and the feedback form. So here you go on this first one with the lunchroom duty. Remember way back when we called her on our phone? Those were our other choices. It's important to consider student safety and student climate issues that supervision of large and less structured student spaces implicate. By calling your assistant, you are being both responsive to staff calls for your attention and assessing what, for example, made it necessary to call you over the school intercom. Depending on the nature of the call, you may also want to consider your own intra-school communications protocols and when intercom announcements are appropriate. Decision point number 2. How would you address the budget cuts? Be resourceful, make cuts far away from students as possible. This is a great time to reflect on whether or not we did that. And the key learning objective is key points you may have noted were the inclusion of stakeholders in the process, as well as a sense of your strategic priorities going forward. Option point number 3. We chose form a committee to determine how the cuts will be made. By involving stakeholders in the decision about which cuts to make, you are likely to improve buy-in and support for these difficult choices. Moreover, certain stakeholders may have more information than you about specific areas, resulting in potentially better informed decisions about which cuts to make. Forming a committee, however, does add a layer of time to the process, and depending on the directive from the upper administration, there may be limited time. Be aware that streamlining the approach to this process may be necessary, and the size and structure of the committee may need to be modified to ensure practicality and timeliness. Option number 4, we chose to invite at least one teacher. If there are no teachers on the budget committee, you are missing an essential stakeholder, and it is prudent to involve at least one teacher on the committee. Option number 5, invite at least one parent is what we chose. If there are no parents on the budget committee, you are missing input from another essential stakeholder. That said, be careful about the divergent interests of individual parents and the way they may contribute up to a budget decision. Are there alternatives you could consider to get parent feedback, such as an open session for parents to ask questions and offer ideas? Option 6, reconvene the team and take a more active role in establishing priorities. When you convene a committee with the intention of their recommendations forming the basis of a decision, it would not be sensible to disregard their contribution. If their recommendations are not workable, it makes better sense to reconvene and discuss the issues rather than to simply disregard them. Are there any thoughts from our participants on this decision point? This is probably one that we talked about as a large group. Are there any thoughts? I want to pause and make sure I'm catching everybody. All right. Next. Option number 7, we talked about this in person. So this is where, when I just typed in a few letters, this is what you see on the feedback report. The number 8, our choice was to present the budget priorities as you see them, leading the way with your own views. By involving stakeholders in the decision about which cuts to make, you created an opportunity for improved buy-in and support for those difficult decisions. However, forming the committee did add a layer of time to the process. Unfortunately, disregarding the committee's input, which may be necessary due to impending deadlines, will almost certainly undermine the goodwill and support garnered by inviting their participation in the first place. Consider being honest about the time and concerns and explaining how you intend to move the process forward. Number 9, we chose community and safety. And then that's when I typed in a few letters. Our last choice was instruction and curriculum. That was our second choice. And our last decision point here, determine a weighting to your 2 top priorities and allocate the budget accordingly. Identifying more than one priority to protect in the budget cut process helps ensure that important focal points are preserved. It is still important to consider how other areas will be disproportionately impacted by greater cuts they will receive. So that is what the simulation is like, and that is what the feedback form is like. Now, before anybody goes, I want to make sure that I want you to know that we're thankful that you're all here today from wherever you are in the United States. This was exciting for us. And if you have questions, we'll stay on as long as you want, or we can set up a meeting with you individually if you prefer. Brian?
Yeah, and we'll also be sending out the recorded version of this as well as the feedback report, which was mentioned earlier. And we'll actually be offering sessions like this all summer. So in the email that you receive, you will see our schedule. So we love it for you to invite any colleagues or anyone who may benefit from this type of session.
David, I have a question.
Yes.
You didn't use Plickers today. You've used Plickers in a number of the past simulations that you've modeled. I actually like this option better because it takes away possible cumbersome issues with getting people's votes. How did you do that?
Great question, Tom. So in this scenario, Zoom has such a good polling feature. And it didn't take very long for me I think it's one of the advantages of Zoom is to do a poll, because I could see how fast people were replying. It was incredible. I would push launch poll and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. and I could see the percentages adjusting.
Yeah.
And then when it kind of started slowly trickling off on the poll, then I would close it. You know, it's that whole balance. How much time do you give people versus keeping things going? But did you notice that sometimes I showed the poll results and sometimes I didn't?
Yes.
My goal is to get as much talking in the groups as possible. So as a facilitator, I just did my best to do that.
Yeah, I thought it went very smoothly. I liked the use of the polling.
Awesome.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you. I used one question on the poll and I just reset it. It said relaunch poll 1, click.
Good. Okay.
I have a question, David. It referenced that the decisions reference PESEL standards, but I didn't see the reference in the feedback report. Is there a place where the decisions are connected to the PESEL standards?
Ooh, good question. I do not think each decision point is connected to the PESEL standards. We have connected each simulation, like the content of the simulation, we've connected those to the PESEL standards. Do you use the PESEL or the NELP?
We use both. The prep programs use NELP, but leaders are using PESEL. But is there a place where the overall simulation would have which standards are referenced within the simulation?
We do have a chart that references the PESEL standards and which simulations touch on those standards or fully associate with those standards. So I'm happy to send that out to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
And some of the simulations actually do have in the feedback report that reference. So it varies by sim. But the goal within the way they're set up is they can be framed in a variety of ways. So you can actually evoke issues relating to a standard, even if we didn't necessarily highlight it for that. But if you've highlighted it, then it becomes part of the participants' experience and their discussion. So they can be very flexible in terms of how you're actually using them.
Great, thank you.
I have a question for you, Sharon. Have you used breakout rooms before in Zoom?
I personally have not. I am admitting that I am not the most technologically savvy person, but I have participated in other Zoom sessions where there have been breakout sessions.
Okay. And as you reflect on your conversations that you had in your breakout session for this simulation, how did those breakout sessions, how did those conversations go?
I thought they were great. I thought that they provided an opportunity for, and I'm using the lens of an aspiring or new administrator. I think they provided opportunities for individuals to hear different perspectives and, you know, why different people chose different options from the poll. And when you mentioned earlier in the Sims that sometimes listening to a peer could help change your mind, I think that is so important. I think that if I could have changed something that I might have asked for, I've also been I was just recently in a Zoom meeting where there were breakout sessions, but it also had a shared document. So there could be a running list of responses that, you know, eventually, you know, as appropriate, the participants could have that. So that would be helpful. But I thought that they were very effective. I thought you did a fine job of facilitating those and, you know, setting up the context. And I thought they worked well.
Good, thank you. Because I'm always curious, you know, I want to hear just as much as I want to share. So thanks for sharing that.
So when you facilitate these, let's say with new administrators, for example, or aspiring administrators, can you do you predetermine the breakout groups, or is it always at random?
So you can set up your Zoom room to predetermine who is in which group. Yep, you can do that. What I have found is that, you know, sometimes I've facilitated simulations between like a mentee principal and a mentor principal. And then when I get them talking about a simulation, that's really powerful. And I also really like the randomization because you're meeting somebody with such a different lens.
Yep.
And I think our world needs more of that. So
Yeah.
the more random, the better for me personally. But you get to decide that. You can do one or the other, and then play with that, and then you can figure out for yourself which method you like better.
Do you ever, as a facilitator, ever pop into the breakout sessions? If there were a breakout session that were, a little longer, do you ever pop in?
This is the only Zoom meeting, and I've done dozens of them like this, where I haven't popped in. Almost always I pop in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Yeah, thank you, David. Nicely done.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thanks for joining.
Sure.
Are there any other questions from the group?
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for attending, and you'll see an email from me shortly once the Zoom recording processes. I'll get this out to you in case you ever want to take another look, as well as the other stuff that was promised.
Great, thank you.
Have a great
Thanks,
rest.
everybody.